a marathon, not a sprint. So it is what the Japanese would say with Kaizen, small steps with continuous improvement. And also this is how we see our job. This is how I see my job. And everybody who thinks I can make a difference within a year, this will not work. But after 3 to 5 years, you can, look into some of the first results. And after 10 years, there's no excuse if nothing has happened. And you would see, hopefully, that some impact has been already generated.
Corporate venture capital is one of the most fascinating tools inside the open innovation arena. I think it's not one of the latest. It's not definitely the latest kids on the block, but is an area that over the past probably 20, 30 years has shown growing interest and particularly growing deployments by many, many corporates. It's also true that some corporates are in certain way stepping back from the area, but it's also true that many other corporates are joining the party. But beyond counting how many corporates are actually entering the area, corporate venture capital arena, how many are leaving, how many are just silently shutting them down, how many are doubling down the tickets. What is really important is understanding how corporate venture capital is run inside large corporation, and if there are some secret sources or some ways that make the corporate venture capital better perform than others. And so today I'm super happy to discuss about this pretty large and relevant topic with Marc Thom. Marc, beyond being a friend, is Corporate Vice President CVC and Head of Henkel Ventures. Hi, Marc.
Hi, Alberto. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
So, Marc, I think probably for the one who do not know Henkel, the few, might be good to provide a quick introduction about Henkel, and then let's move into the topic that we like, is innovation.
Great, yeah. So, hello, everyone. So, Henkel is a almost 150 years old company from Germany, from the area in North Rhine-Westphalia in Düsseldorf. We're basically active in two different fields, in adhesive technologies and in the consumer packaged goods segment. Started with brands like everybody knows, like Persil, which is a global brand in detergents, but also developed later a strong arm in the adhesive segment, industrial specialist. And the company is turning 150 years this year in September, so everybody's looking for, and venture capital.
Big Geburtstag, right? That's the way you say it.
It's a very big Geburtstag. If you're celebrating 150 years, it's a big one because it's a round number. And yeah, one of the jobs, what me and my team are doing all the day is to enable, another 150 years of Henkel to be future-proof. So meaning for our job is to, some kind of also support the company in getting another successful 150 years.
Talking about innovation, again, our company that old, or let's say with such a long history, probably in a more polite way, approach the topic of innovation. Again, as you know, there is this new buzzword, it's called open innovation. That is not that new, actually, it's probably 20, 25 years we are discussing about that. But again, compared to 150 years, it's probably something novel. And so how a company like Henkel historically approached the topic of rejuvenating or the process of not going obsolete?
That's a good question. So Henkel started with true entrepreneurship from Fritz Henkel 150 years ago and needed to reinvent itself several times. So the strong arm in the adhesive segment came later to the company. It was not from the origin. So there have been a lot of pivots in the company where entrepreneurial spirit has been needed to reinvent and to, adopt to the circumstances of the world where it's going. And also today it is that innovation is part of the genetics of our company. We are trying to, anticipate the world where it goes to, try to understand and get an idea about how the world would like in the next 10, 15 years, and then to backwards engineer what's needed today. And from a perspective of products, business model innovation could also be, process innovation. So innovation basically is playing a role in products, in processes, and in business model. And all of these are things we at Henkel are looking very deeply into, that we are always ahead of the curve and understanding opportunities and, of course, the challenges and how to overcome them. So in our company, you will find several teams which are working in the innovation segment. It's not only the Henkel Ventures team like us, what is looking into this and is working every day on it. There are dedicated teams in the business units, but as well in the functions who are active in this innovation pillar. And so it's our counterparts usually in understanding how we can drive more, innovation in the processes, for example, in supply chain, but also in enterprise software, in HR, but also in finance and controlling and purchasing and sourcing. But you can also understand it from a perspective of how can AI, for example, enable new formulations in adhesive technologies, but as well into the consumer packaged goods segment.
And going to the tools, the open innovation tool that you guys have been using, again, based on what I know, you have the corporate venture capital tool and you have the venture client tool. Any other tool that you're using?
Yeah. So we are, of course, setting on partnerships and collaborations, but as well on the investments. We are investing in startups and funds, like every corporate venture capital arm is doing. But we also are building joint ventures and strategic partnerships, and this is usually being executed within the business units. So our team can help facilitate these kind of collaborations, but execution is usually in the business unit itself. So we have dedicated teams in both business units which are driving these kind of strategic collaborations, and with the intent to develop new business as well on top of it. So you will find a dedicated team in the segment of adhesive technologies, and you can also find a dedicated team in the consumer packaged goods segment.
When you refer to partnership, you're referring just to startups or also other kind of companies?
That's a good point. So there are partnerships, especially which are valid in a very early stage. Usually the startups are in there, for example, in sustainability or in new kind of breakthrough technology, like synthetic materials and using AI for new formulations. That's usually something where you're partnering with companies which are not that long around. But of course, we have strong partnerships as well with the big tech companies like Microsoft, Google, with Adobe. And so it's not that it's just only this pillar. And another muscle is to strategically collaborate with companies to achieve joint targets. And then for this case, you can, of course, partner with all different kinds of companies. Doesn't need to be the stock noted big players, could also be smaller ones, but every company where we together are stronger than each of us alone.
Going back to the unit that you lead, technically speaking, you're leading the corporate venture capital effort, but you also substantially, as you mentioned before, driving a deal flow for potential partnership with the business unit. So a couple of questions. Can you tell you a bit what has been the evolution of your team inside Henkel? What has been the main milestones and changes? Which is the size of the team? How many people you are? And then how does it work?
Yeah, good point. So it's a journey, like in every corporate. It began before I came on board. So I joined Henkel at the 1st of April 2022, but officially the corporate venture capital activity started in 2018. So Henkel has decided to be active in corporate venture capital already in 2018, and then developed two different funds. One fund has been supporting the adhesive technologies segment, and the other one has been supporting the consumer packaged goods. So it was 150 million euros assets under management at this point of time, equally, divided for both businesses in 2018. After 5 years, the corporate looked into the results, and they found out that there's a lot of meaningful investments in startups, but also in funds. But the strategic value has been some kind of a question mark at this point. It was a lot opportunity driven, but it was good. For a first 5 years of corporate venture capital, it was a good start. But of course, there has been some room to improve. And our board decided at this point of time, at the end of 2021, to continue the venture capital activities, but then with clear investment hypothesis, partnership hypothesis, and they have decided to hire someone from outside so that, you can start with fresh blood from outside. And so I came on board, and the first 9 months, we spent a lot of time on building an investment hypothesis a partnership hypothesis. Also, we have set up a dedicated venture investment committee because, you also need to be able to drive the right governance, structures, processes. So the first 9 months has been pretty much driven by a lot of Word documents, alignments, and understanding where the company wants to go to. Also, you need to define the search fields and why they matter. Not every search field is a search field where you can invest in. In some of the search fields, make no sense to invest. It's just better to make a partnership or even, to acquire companies. So you need to have a basic understanding about where to partner, where to buy, where to build. And if you, analyze all of this, you could see in the search fields as well a pattern where you would like to, go deeper with partnerships, where you would like to double down with investments, and where it makes sense to, for example, rather go to make a ticket into a fund or directly in startups. So as we have built the thesis about everything, we aligned the thesis with all the top management executive committees so that we are all aligned in what we are looking for. So our corporate venture capital arm knows exactly what we are looking for and why, and what we do with these kind of companies if we find them. So the next step has been then to evolve this more into a big partnership with different venture capital companies outside, with the funds, with institutional and financial VCs, because you are stronger. Because we are 10 people in our team. We have right now more than 65 investments, so a lot of board seats. You can imagine it's a lot of time you need to spend on this. But on the other side, if you utilize your network and you can really precisely describe what you're looking for, and your network has an own interest to partner with a strategic company like us, in this, our strategic investor, who can scale a company at the end or even make it better, there is a natural fit between it. So, and this is exactly what we have worked out. So we have built up a very strong ecosystem with a lot of leading institutional VCs, and we are never leading around, but we are, co-investing hand in hand with them. And we are pretty much active on board of the companies. So what has changed? So we went into a pretty much data-driven thesis, which we are, modifying one time a year or even twice a year, that we are going back and discussing with the rest of the management. Are we on the right track? Are these still the same search fields we're looking for, or do we need to add some, remove some? What are the learnings? And over the time now, it has led to, a very, structural approach, how we are interacting with the ecosystem outside. And at the end, this has not only led to 65 investments. I think it is half between fund investments and direct investments. It also has led in more than 80 partnerships and collaborations, which has been facilitated. And this is somehow the real value of it. So you can make fantastic partnerships where you don't need to invest. But in several cases, it makes sense to bet bigger and to have a bigger incentive, and to even understand more and help the companies more by investing as well on top of a partnership. So we are investing from a strategic point of view, but with a solid financial discipline. How to say this? That's meaning we don't do it for all the cost that we are, investing in companies only. There's a strategic angle. We also, would be eager to not lose our money, so, which is natural. So we are pairing this as well with a substantial financial due diligence on top of the strategic due diligence. And when it makes sense, we go deeper with an investment.
A lot of inputs, and I have a lot of questions. So first of all, just one comment. You say that how many board seats you have?
I think it's an 80%. We have board observer seats. In some funds, we have an advisory board seat. Board members, I think we are in 5 companies, no, 6 companies right now. So in some cases it makes sense, in some cases it doesn't make sense. We are deciding this.
I have the same discussion with Ingo Rosenthal.
Yeah.
And Ingo is always a smart person and tell me, listen, the limit of the number of investment that a CVC can fund is the number of board seats that we can take. Because again, money, we may have it, but we don't have the time. So that has been, and so that when you say this such a big number, I say, wow, this is something. Going back to the discussion. So to wrap it up, you have a 10 people team. Substantially, you are scouting directly or indirectly to investments, non-investments, but we're also scouting what you call search fields, challenges coming from the business unit. So essentially, you are scouting for investment purposes, and you are scouting for partnership purpose, what we call venture clients. So essentially, you are running the engine for both. That obviously then for venture client, for partnership, then the ball is in the hands of the business unit, because when you find something and the partnership starts, is up to the business unit to implement. But technically speaking, the source of the deal flow, if I got it right, comes mostly from your team, right?
Exactly.
You have a sort of mandate for looking for solution to business units, innovation, pains and needs. So this is what you do. The next immediate question is, how do you measure your activity? You say, okay, we invest, and we invest with a strategic goal, but also with financial discipline. That makes a lot of sense, obviously, because again, so if something strategic but sucks, typically it's never a good idea to invest, right?
Yeah.
And so, but how do you measure? Because again, going back to my discussion, this case was Philip Roses, not Ingo, but still, once he told me, I asked him, listen, but how many portfolio company Bosch has ever acquired? Because they are pretty long. He said, again, it was 20, probably 5-6 years ago, he told me, no. And so technically speaking, if you are investing with strategic goals, at a certain point, something should happen, meaning some acquisition should follow. But also my typical objection to myself when I think about these things is, listen, but if you are looking for a strategic goal, but strategic is not horizon 1, but horizon 2 and 3, yes, an acquisition might happen, but maybe it might happen in 5 to 10 years. And same time, if you are making investment through a CVC fund, it's difficult to measure the performance, also the financial performance of a VC fund or CVC down the way. You need probably to wait 5 to 7 years to see how much is the total value of the fund is actually realized and how much is that. So technically speaking, that meaning that for most of the activity, you have KPIs that actually can be proper measured in 5 to 10 years afterwards. Mm-hmm. While for the venture client, probably you say we are able to generate a certain number of partnerships, so something can probably maybe measure down the way, but still also in that situation, understand the real value produced for the business units is something that requires some time to implement. So how do you measure, how are you measured by your company in terms of performance and activities?
That's a good question. So I think we need to start by defining strategic value, and also you need to see it on a timeline perspective. So strategic value can, be applied tomorrow or today or the day after. So let's say if Henkel has a use case and is looking for a special technology or solution which is on the market, and we have a standing team there, some FTEs, a budget, and the business unit knows exactly what to do with it tomorrow if they find the company, because this is exactly what our current partners, suppliers, cannot deliver. Then I think it's usually resulting into something what you call venture clienting or a partnership. So you can find things, you can bring both sides together easily with your network. You can find out what we need, and then you can, facilitate this kind of collaboration. It will be then at the end owned and executed by the business unit, but we can of course intro and facilitate this. This is then on a horizon which is very short. Then there is something which we call a tangible strategic fit, which is between 3 to 5 years down the road. It is that our business units have an idea that this is a path they want to go to. They have no concrete planning of FTEs budgets right now, but they know the world is moving into this direction. We also need to get our arms around. We need to be active here. We have an idea that we want to go there, but this is what we can do ourselves. This is what we potentially need on our side. So the strategic value is defined, but it will appear maybe in 3 to 5 years down the road. So then the partnerships resulting into something tangible if it's set up. And then there is the third one, which is the real disruption. There are disruptive technologies and new kind of trends and developments in the world, which can, double up the market cap of our company or even half. So everything was really critical to understand. And our job is for all three strategic fits to provide opportunities for our company. So we need to be always there to have opportunities, a free seat at a table where our business units can take a seat and be surrounded by potential opportunities which they can utilize in building something which is meaningful and they need for building the growth for the company. So if you see the strategic values over the timeline, some of this is realizing tomorrow, then of course you can calculate, okay, is there anything coming out from sales, collaborations, whatever? This is something you can, let's say, somehow easy measure. When it comes to the future things, it's something like what you mentioned before. There will be a potential strategic fit in the future, we don't know, but it most likely will appear. We cannot measure it today. But there is one thing which you can measure really well. For every search field, what we are discussing with our business units and the functions, we get an idea why they would like to look into. So this is an inside-out view from the company coming from the business unit. We as a venture capital team have an outside-in view. This is what we see from outside perspective, what we see where the VCs are placing their bets on, we see where the startups are doubling down. So there's a world outside. And if you match both sides, it usually leads to upskilling within our own company to bring in another perspective, even if this is 3 to 5 years away or 10 years away, that our company understands that potentially generative AI will change the way how we build formulations, will change the way how we are applying IPs, how the speed we can bring new products to the market. And so this kind of information and upskilling and foresight, what you can bring in, even if the strategic value lies in the future, it already pays out today somehow. The same is valid for the indirect investments, what we are doing. It's also something what you can see and learn a lot about where their funds are going, and especially if it's specialist funds and the overlap in the search fields is pretty big, then you can do it. On the financial perspective, then it is also important to understand it's not our goal to maximize the money. Then we would be a pure financial VC, but it's our job to at least, if we, create all of these opportunities, it would be a win-win and even, some kind of a perpetuum mobile if you at least, bring so much money into that you don't lose money, and which means in a corporate environment, should be the money should, evolve over the years by at least 8% IRR every year. This might be then the weighted average cost of capital for a corporate, something like this. And so if the fund after 10 years is at a TVPI, net TVPI of 1.6, 1.7, I need to do the math in my brain. But if you're resulting after 10 years there and you have brought in a lot of strategic opportunities, foresight and opportunities for collaborations and joint ventures and everything else, I think then it comes without any cost. And if this is coming, strategic value without cost is, I think personally, very important. If you do your things right, you're handling the financial discipline, at least on a level that you can enjoy the strategic benefits because they would not be there and you don't basically need to pay for it. So this is the angle, I think, from where we need to see it. If you make good investments, it can also result into net TVPIs, which are higher. And I know also a lot of CVCs and ours including, we don't need to hide in our net TVPIs and also in the DPIs, not too much from the traditional VCs. So the numbers are not that far away. And even sometimes if the CVC knows what they're doing and you're sticking to what you really understand and you don't go like too broad, there's no reason that we should be less successful like a financial VC in the things we're doing, especially if we can bring some value in scaling the solutions as well on top. So to make a long story short, strategic value is always a different thing to measure. And we can measure it because we can change the course of our company. We can also understand value chains. Is it crowded in the upstream? Is it, what's happening in the downstream? What are the latest technology disruptions in the different parts of the value chain? Is it an exit scenario for startups? Meaning, is there space to enter the market? Where's the concentration going? And when you speak about potential M&A, Henkel also acquired in the past, but that's not why we're investing. We're investing to bring value from both sides, and as well to also understand more about the unit economics, insights into new markets. I can give you a very simple example, and it's a company we have invested in some pretty interesting companies, but one company is very simple to understand. It's Great Many from New York, where we have made an investment. It's a company for hair treatment to enable hair growth. So Henkel is today in business our business is around shampoo. It's about, consumer packaged goods. So we take a lot of care for hair. We make colorization and so on. If we understand latest products and technology in hair growth or anti-hair loss from a technology perspective, which are, applied in these salons, it also could enable us to understand how we, could enter one day this kind of market in different ways, how we can utilize this access for our products today. How can we build products on top of it? Another example would be a company, Eden. It's headquartered in Germany. It's a company which makes textile recycling. So you can buy very cheap fashion today from China. It comes into Europe every day, and it's coming more and more and more. And the people are wearing it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and then they throw it away because T-shirt is $4 or €4. And then some kind of recycling needs to start. So it's clear there will be recycled fibers soon. So all of this fashion, all of these clothes will be recycled, will be brought back into recycled fibers. These recycled fibers, they need a detergent. So maybe on basis of this, we can build a new product. And maybe the last example, because there are a lot of examples around this industry, is as well, for example, we are looking into hair extensions, for example, into the area of, people of color. So it's a huge market and it's still growing. And they are spending a lot of money for, some kind of hair treatment. Could be extensions, could be wigs, could be everything. This is a huge market where Henkel is not playing, too much in with our products. But maybe our existing products can be utilized in this market by making investment in a company with hair extensions, for example, for people of color. And on the other side, we can also learn what kind of, products they need. This is from a product innovation type. But of course, you can look into process innovation. So we have invested in software-defined automation, a company which is helping us to remotely control the production lines and to have a remote monitoring, safety solutions, and so on top, which also will help us in the future for hyper-personalized productions. And then, of course, the completely, disruptive technologies where we have invested in things like enzyme modeling in Silicon Valley, Ether Biomachines, company which is modeling enzymes in different ways. And every time you model enzymes in a different way, a new material can evolve from it. So also this is something which is, crazy, but it's really important for us as a company to get our arms around. So everything we do has either a product innovation base of foundation or, process or business model innovation. This is how we look into. And this brings value because also if the understanding is we don't want to enter this market because we understood it now, it's nothing we think that we should do it. It's also very important information. And I spoke with a friend from another CVC last week, and he told me every bankruptcy they are doing, I said, I would not go that far, but he said every bankruptcy they're doing shows them that it's better to burn 2 million instead of 100 to not enter the market. So this is how he sees it. I see it differently. I don't want to, lose the 2 million, but it's also a way to see it. So, but basically to bring the value, what we see inside to our company and to upskill our colleagues and to see, hey, this is a perspective you also need to look into because this is happening outside there. It's startups being more active and you should look into, do you know about, this is what we know, and this exchange is super relevant.
I like the way you refer. A friend told me.
Yeah, no. If we see each other in Torino, I can tell you the CVC behind it. It's also a big chemical company, but it's not ours.
Okay, I can imagine maybe. Tell me and tell us what are the main barriers, because again, looks nice. Again, you are substantially you're substantially providing, as you say, strategic market intelligence at no cost, at a limited cost. Because again, at the end, the CVC return the capital with some national return, you are not there to making money. You are there for providing strategic market intelligence you can get from consultants substantially at no cost, because the investment you make substantially produce return the capital plus some returns. And that is clear. And then looks obviously a great proposition. What was the hurdles? Because again, the problem is how you deliver this strategic market intelligence to the C-suite of the company and to the business unit. Because what are the barriers to transfer this kind of information? Again, I remember talking about with a big French company, And they say, actually, the way we try to influence the C-suite is substantially we count the minutes that the CEO is spending with some of the startups that we invested into and we are working with. At least you can really get exposed to, because there are different levels and there are layers inside corporation. Maybe you are able to change the mind of some people, but how you sure that the message go up to the top and actually becoming an actionable yes? And I love the fact that most of the time it's also important what is a no. I mean, one of the payoff is that you know that this is not a market to consider anymore. So how do you deliver the strategic intelligence, and how you are good and how the company is open to get and to listen? What are the hurdles?
Yeah, that's a very fair point. So thankfully, I'm reporting directly in our company to the CEO, and he's very open for all of these learnings, feedback, and upskilling. So he's very much supporting us in what we do. Also with our, the council around the chief sustainability officer, who is also a chief HR officer. She's also very open in these discussions and, of course, these perspectives to bring it inside. And also the rest of the board is appreciating to get all of this knowledge. And how can we do it? And this is, I think, what Henkel has done pretty well. We have this investment committee where we have leading people from the top management in every search field, which we bring in, and we are aligning that we want to work on it. We are building a report, a deep dive on our side at the Henkel Ventures team. We are going with this report into our investment committee and presenting the outcome of our inside out and outside in view. And we are presenting our strategy for partnerships and investing in this field towards the top management. And then they can, of course, approve this way of thinking and this way of, executing the strategy. And so you have a buy-in from the top management directly, because this is what they are proactively supporting. So in our case, this is working so far pretty well. The only thing, what of course is a learning curve, and also for me, and I think it's valid for many companies, is the course of a company can change. Yeah, and we had it. We looked a lot into synthetic materials in the last 2 years as well, and we found out that that some of the things like synthetic palm kernel oil is an important thing, but the reality is the society or the people outside are not willing to spend this amount of money to buy these kind of solutions all the time. So it brought us to the moment to understand, even if there's a lot of things ongoing, first the mind shift in the population needs to first happen, because even if they're saying to you before, I would like to spend more money if it's completely sustainable, the reaction and the behavior in front of the shelves might be different. So the company strategy could shift, and this is something which is also important to mention, not away from sustainability, even deeper into and to apply to long time established products. So it's also very important for us. But the strategy of a company can change, and it means as well that search fields can change. They can be more prioritized this year, and it could be less prioritized maybe in a year after. So if you don't do it frequently enough to check the search fields you're active looking into and investing and partnering, it might lead to something which could be also unexpected, and then you need to handle it. So another thing which came up, and which is also a learning curve of, also, and I'm pretty sure this is happening to other companies as well, is the fact that from a geographic perspective and from some circumstances which are happening in the world is not anymore that predictive like it has been before. So many conflicts, regulations. And so what I really learned in the last 2 years, and after more than 10, 15 years now in this industry, it still, surprises me from time to time, is that regulations are announced from government, not happening, are, postponed, never brought up. So, and this is important, because if you are betting also on that regulation kicks in, especially in the sustainability segment, there are a lot of startups coming up and building on top of this, that this regulation might kick in, and as a company, you're also choosing the route because you're believing in it. Then regulation takes longer or is not coming. So things might be more difficult than you thought before. But to make it also short here, a company is active, is pivoting, and that's fine. And it's also needed. And this is also what it is. Our company is great in establishing value every day with what they do, and we are becoming also pretty good in being future ready by applying it, but bringing everything in. It doesn't matter what it is. You always have. It's not invented here scenario. You have it at Google. You have it at everybody. You have it also at Henkel. That some people say, "Hey, it's not invented here, so of course then we need to look into. We know better." But over the time, they see startups not as competition. It's recognized after a few years now as something like an extension and a support. So let's work together on things. And I think this is something which takes over the time of the people, that they get familiar with, that there is and might be innovation outside, which is really helping us as well. And then you need to partner. And then the bottleneck is, do you have enough project management skills everywhere in the company for how many parallel collaborations you can then handle? So you need a special treatment and a special skill set to handle maybe 80 partnerships, because maybe if you found the relevant 80 people who can really handle a perfect or very good collaboration. If you want to set up 160, are there another 80, or do you first need to find them? So I think it's completely normal challenges, but this is also something which we are getting our arms around and try to get better every day, that we can even make more partnerships every year on top. And of course, it has also something to do with the trust of the people. But over the time, trust is always evolving if you bring in value. And that's basically the thing what you need to do. Bring in value, and then people are trusting you and are willing to collaborate because they can help. With our help, they can also grow.
That's very, very true. I think the bottleneck is definitely the ability to deploy collaboration and partnership with startups. The actual business unit has limited time. They are very, very focused by nature on today, delivering and running operations. So it's difficult to get attention and get resources dedicated to run a large number of collaboration. Because based on the experience that we see is, unfortunately, and this, I believe, is the golden rule in the world of innovation, just a few things actually have an impact. Again, you say we make 80 collaboration, but probably the one that actually has a material impact for companies like Henkel are probably one or two, because again, anything that is below the billion probably is not that relevant strategically, since we are talking about strategic impact, And it's difficult to find $1 billion+ value collaboration. Probably it's one out of many, but you have to run many in order to find the one. What I believe that established corporates, are so difficult to understand is the concept that in a world when you're used to get a small return out of anything, in this situation, you need to probably run multiple things that has no return in order to get the one that might probably create a new business unit or new course and direction for the company. So that's, I believe, is the part where most of the open innovation concept collapses inside corporation. You see corporates starting POC, and at the end, POC is noise, it's fatigue, it's time spent. Yes, you are exposed, but at the end, you're not producing a result until that one that is really material. And again, after a while, corporates really don't have the vision to continue the effort, knowing that they will find that one.
That's true. And this is especially valid if you are still standing in your old known business model. So if it's, you're producing hardware, and you're right, if you're today generating $1 billion from, formulation or raw material, that's nice. And everything else you are looking into, and this is very small, just bringing $10,000 in, it's too small. But even if it's a small amount in the business model innovation, if you're changing and exploring into a new business model, could be also software generated, everything else in licensing, whatever, IP licensing. And so there's so much business models with much higher profit margin that even smaller revenues can make an impact. So if you can generate 10 million recurring revenues with an idea where you have a profit margin of 80%, it's different. So, and then the 10 million might be seen as impactful. And especially if you are in a deep tech segment like Henkel is, innovation is playing a crucial role, and there is so much potentially what we can tackle and can go. But you're right, this is always the same, and it's a sprint. So it is what the Japanese would say with Kaizen, small steps with continuous improvement. And also this is how we see our job. This is how I see my job. And everybody who thinks I can make a difference within a year, this will not work. But after 3 to 5 years, you can, look into some of the first results. And after 10 years, there's no excuse if nothing has happened. And you would see, hopefully, that some impact has been already generated.
You say it is a marathon, but most corporate are just trying to take decision after 100 meters, and that's probably what
exactly
at pace. I mean, to close our conversation, what are the 1-2 top tips that you recommend to your peers or to staff that want to engage with a corporate large like yours?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is build your governances, processes, structures first. So we've spent some time on building an investment proposal statement and an investment committee charter, where you really detailed go in and say, why are we going to invest? What is the definition of success? How are we going to invest? What's the reason behind what are we doing with partnerships? How do we handling? How do we measure? First of all, make an alignment between all the different stakeholders in your company, that you are defining success in the right way, that you are, setting the search fields in the interest of the company, and make them part of the decision. And
put it in writing, because sometimes governance changes.
Yeah,
or at least,
yeah. And the second thing is that I think you're driving well if you are starting with your team, that you are choosing people with high competency levels, because the performance is something you can develop out of them and within them. So you can help them getting a true professional on the job, but they have this natural knowledge about your company. Don't go out and hire, the senior investment managers from leading funds and pay a fortune for them. Take care that you're identifying the right people in your company who have the, the DNA of your company, but also have the competencies and the willingness to develop themselves into venture capitalists over the time. And then start with a very high talented professional team and build on top of them over the time, a strong, sustainable team who can then educate another group of young talents. And have a good feedback culture. Every 3 months, look back, what's good, what's wrong. Is this the right, decision we did here? And give trust in your people to also go on a board observer, even if it's early, because they are learning so much, and they can also bring in great new perspectives to every company, listen to the use. So, but I think it starts always, get your structures and your get the basement right. And this is a horrible process. You're building documents, talking, aligning, and so on. It takes a year. It's not fun. It's not goosebumps. It's not investing. But if you have done it, at the end, something wonderful is coming, because you have alignment. And this means that you can work as a big team over the company. And if you have a joint definition of success, that's so important, because maybe everybody has a different definition of success. So I think it starts with this.
And don't sugarcoat too much, because at the end, at certain point, someone will ask about what you promised.
It's true. Yeah.
Perfect, Marc. Thank you so much for this conversation, and let's continue.
Looking forward meeting you in Torino, Alberto. Have a great time. Looking forward. Bye-bye.